In late 2007, as the conflict in Iraq was slowly cooling down and reconstruction efforts had begun, Sergeant Matthews and his spotter Sergeant Isaac were deployed to guard a pipeline project in the desert. The workers assigned to the site had all been killed, and now their mission was to uncover what happened before new crews could arrive. Hidden behind sand and stone, the two soldiers endured the brutal heat, watching the empty site for nearly 20 hours without incident. Matthews grew restless, convinced the attackers had long since disappeared, likely a squad that struck quickly and moved on. Isaac, however, pointed out the lack of tracks and argued this was the work of a lone marksman, possibly the infamous Iraqi sniper known as Juba. Matthews doubted anyone could eliminate so many targets so swiftly, but Isaac remained certain the headshot precision was no coincidence. Eventually, Matthews' patience wore thin. He descended the slope to investigate up close, asking Isaac to keep watch. Teasing his partner lightly, Matthews pressed on, moving from body to body, realizing each death was indeed caused by a perfectly placed shot. Reaching the center of the site, he tried to trace the sniper's firing angle while Isaac urgently called for him to return. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed, and Matthews collapsed, clutching his abdomen in agony. Isaac, desperate, sprinted in a zigzag pattern to avoid further shots, but before reaching Matthews, a bullet tore through his leg, forcing him to crawl for cover behind a broken wall. Bleeding heavily, Matthews urged Isaac over the radio to call the base for help. Isaac examined his wound, tightened a belt around his thigh to slow the bleeding, and grabbed his radio pack, only to discover the antenna had been destroyed by gunfire, leaving him cut off. Matthews insisted Isaac try to locate the sniper so he could return fire, but Isaac warned any movement would give them away. Using his knife, Isaac carved a small hole into the wall to slip his scope through, injuring his hand on falling debris. Meanwhile, Matthews attempted to drag himself toward his rifle, but blood loss overcame him, and he fainted. Determined not to share the same fate, Isaac performed a crude extraction of the bullet from his leg, nearly losing consciousness from the pain, before bandaging himself and blacking out. When he finally awoke, faint voices crackled through his headset. It was an officer from the base. Gathering his strength, Isaac immediately reported their dire situation, pleading for urgent medical aid. But soon Isaac grows uneasy when the supposed officer starts asking strange questions and even demands that he reveal his exact location or fire into the air so helicopters can drop supplies accurately. Isaac immediately pushes back, knowing this goes against every safety protocol and would expose him. Listening more carefully, he notices the man's accent isn't American at all. It's Juba, the sniper, who has hijacked the frequency to lure him out. Isaac refuses to be tricked and calls him out, but Juba doesn't hang up. Instead, he begins to chat, saying he wants to get to know Isaac. Isaac tests his radio again, but the line is still dead. Juba keeps asking meaningless questions, and when Isaac stays silent, Juba threatens to shoot Matthews again, taking advantage of the possibility that he might still be alive. To buy time, Isaac agrees to talk and asks Juba to start. While the sniper rambles about being a patriot fighting for his homeland, Isaac quietly sketches a map of the site in the dirt, working out firing lines and possible hiding spots. Juba presses him to share about his family, but Isaac deflects, saying that's too personal. Then Isaac flips the argument, mocking Juba for killing workers who were building schools, pipelines, and basic infrastructure to help the locals. Juba laughs at this, claiming the profits will only end up in America anyway. As their exchange drags on, Isaac continues dodging personal questions. Irritated, Juba once again threatens to finish Matthews off, but Isaac senses the bluff. Suddenly, Juba reveals something chilling. He knows the name of the soldier who once owned Isaac's scope and repeats Matthews' earlier joke about it. This proves the sniper has been eavesdropping on their conversations since the moment they arrived. Scanning the site through his lens, Isaac spots a radio still strapped to one of the fallen men. He tries dragging the body closer with a stick, but realizes he can't reach it without stepping out of cover. Frustrated, he takes a sip from his water bottle, only to discover it's bone dry, the side punctured by a bullet. Over the comms, Juba smugly admits he shot it deliberately, along with Isaac's leg and the antenna, setting up a slow death that he plans to enjoy listening to. Determined, Isaac studies the bullet he pulled from his leg, analyzing its size and weight to deduce what kind of rifle Juba is using. Listening closely, Isaac starts to suspect Juba might actually be a former American soldier who turned against his own side. But Juba quickly denies it, claiming he only ever shoots when someone threatens him first. In return, Isaac opens up with a story of his childhood, recalling how he met his closest friend as a boy and how they both enlisted together years later. Soon, the weight of dehydration and exhaustion overwhelms him, and Isaac collapses to the ground while Juba taunts him with cruel threats. Desperate to outsmart him, Isaac places his helmet and jacket on his rifle and lifts it above the wall to bait a shot. But Juba doesn't fall for the trick. Instead, the helmet slips off and rolls to the far side, leaving Isaac without head protection. The blunder breaks his spirit, and he weeps in frustration. Time drags on until Isaac finally risks a sprint across open ground, grabbing a fallen soldier's bag and radio before retreating back as Juba's bullets whistle around him. Inside the bag, he finds water and candy, devouring both hungrily, only to discover the radio is useless. Juba punishes him by firing at the wall and damaging his scope beyond proper use. Suddenly, faint static turns into a voice. Matthews is alive. Isaac shouts out the sniper's location, and Matthews slowly maneuvers, using a piece of scrap metal to reflect the enemy's position while inching toward his rifle. Meanwhile, Isaac distracts Juba with conversation and learns the man once worked as a teacher in Baghdad. He lost his students during a bombing and vowed revenge. Isaac realizes the ruins shielding him now were once that very school. Juba then presses him about why he still carries a broken scope. Refusing to answer earns another threat against Matthews, and in desperation, Isaac confesses it belonged to a friend who died because of his mistake, a guilt that still haunts him. At the same time, Matthews finally sets up his weapon and unleashes every round he has into the trash pile, while Isaac fires as well to disguise the shots as his own. But before Matthews can reload, Juba's return fire pierces his shoulder. Isaac urges him to crawl to safety behind the wall, but as he reaches out to help, a clean shot from Juba ends Matthews' life instantly. Watching his comrade die in front of him, Isaac breaks down, overwhelmed by despair, whispering that he just wants to go home. Juba replies coldly that if Isaac truly wants to walk away, he won't stop him. But Isaac can't bring himself to believe it. Later, Juba questions Isaac about why he's still fighting when the war is nearly over. After a long pause, Isaac admits the truth. He once accidentally shot his own partner during a mission, and ever since, he's lied, claiming his friend was killed by the enemy. The guilt has kept him on the battlefield. Suddenly, static bursts through his damaged radio, and Isaac hears chatter from what sounds like his own side. For a brief moment, relief washes over him, but his hope shatters when he realizes he can only listen, not respond. The transmitter is broken. To make matters worse, Juba's voice cuts into the same channel, using Isaac's name to call for support. Horrified, Isaac finally understands. Juba has been hijacking Allied signals, impersonating soldiers in distress, and luring rescue teams into deadly ambushes. Isaac tries to shout into the radio, but his words never go through. Realizing even the scavengers think he's done for, Isaac takes one last gamble. Using rope and a stick, he pulls Matthews' rifle toward him and points it at the mound of debris where Juba hides. Just then, helicopters appear overhead, unintentionally revealing Isaac's position to the sniper. Determined to protect the incoming troops, Isaac topples part of the crumbling wall, sending up a cloud of dust that obscures Juba's line of sight. Through the haze, Isaac fires round after round into the trash heap, praying he hits his target. Silence follows. Gathering what little strength he has, Isaac rises from cover. To his surprise, Juba doesn't fire back, leading him to believe he may have finally put an end to him. Moments later, the helicopters land. Soldiers rush in, and Isaac is lifted onto a stretcher for evacuation. He tries to warn them about the sniper, but his voice is drowned out by the roar of the engines. Then, without warning, gunshots ring out. Juba opens fire once more, cutting down the medics and striking the pilot. The helicopter spirals out of control, crashing hard into the desert floor. Isaac is killed instantly, and in a grim twist, Juba has kept his promise. Isaac never died by his bullet. With the battlefield silent again, Juba calmly slips back onto the radio waves, pretending to be an American in need of rescue, already setting a trap for his next unsuspecting victims. And thus, his deadly game begins all over again.